Hello and welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Shivangi Mishra. Here are the headlines. India's leading role in fight against COVID-19 helping world mitigate infection. Sri Lanka's soup kitchens feed the poor hit by economic crisis. And Newari community in Nepal celebrates Gati Mangal festival. Let's begin the show with India, where the country has crossed a big milestone of giving 2 billion vaccine doses a year after it launched the world's largest vaccination drive against coronavirus. New Delhi has been trying to ramp up vaccination efforts amid global concerns over fresh COVID-19 waves. People world over have praised the country's leadership and have thanked India for helping world in mitigating the spread. Have a look.
Accomplishing a new milestone in its fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, India recently achieved the remarkable feat of administering 2 billion vaccine doses. Soon after its launch in January last year, the Indian vaccination drive quickly accelerated, now averaging around 3.7 million jabs per day since the first shot was administered. As per the Indian Health Ministry, 90% of Indian adults are fully vaccinated, while 98% of adults have received at least one dose. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the integrated efforts of all who have been relentlessly endeavoring to make India's vaccination drive a success. Not waiting for other countries to assist amidst the crisis, India developed its own highly effective vaccine and also domestically manufactured other vaccines in order to vaccinate its vast population as quickly as possible. Government initiatives including awareness campaigns and providing special arrangements for immunocompromised and the elderly further strengthened its efforts.
This is a magnificent milestone. Magnificent milestone for India, a magnificent milestone for the world, because we have vaccinated given 200 crore doses to the people of India. And remember, we have achieved this using our own vaccines. We have been Atmanirbhar.
The government of India has not just succeeded at vaccinating nearly all its adult population, but has also sent as many as 230 million doses to other countries, with a special focus on its neighboring countries. The vaccines were given under both the Global Vaccine Access Program, COVAX, and India's own outreach effort, Vaccine Metri. It was the Indian push, along with a handful of other countries, that led the WTO to come to a consensus on waiving the patent on vaccine manufacturing. People world over have lauded Indian efforts for successfully mitigating the virus spread. Microsoft co-founder and philanthropist Bill Gates wrote a special message to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and expressed gratitude on behalf of the global community. The government of India has also launched a free booster vaccination program for 75 days as part of its Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the Independence Festival. People are turning up in huge numbers for the same.
It's completely safe, completely healthy procedure. You should come forward. आपको आना चाहिए आगे एंड प्लीज़ इस अपॉर्चुनिटी का ज़रूर फ़ायदा उठाइए क्योंकि फ्री में गवर्नमेंट प्रोवाइड कर रही है 75 डेज़ का जो प्रोग्राम है. जितने ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग बाहर निकल के और इसका अपॉर्चुनिटी का फ़ायदा उठा सके उठाएं.
Nearly 2.5 years after the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 as a pandemic, India has emerged as a global leader in the continued fight against the pandemic. India has not just lived up to the hype of the pharmacy of the world, but has also provided able leadership to others, including the developed countries. This is just another manifestation of the new brand India.
Moving on to Sri Lanka, which continues to face an economic crisis. There has been a acute shortage of fuel and food as the citizens are struggling even for the most basic necessities. In tough times like these, a community kitchen has been set up for the people in need. We have this report. Millions of people living in Sri Lanka have been suffering because of widespread power cuts, fuel shortages and high inflation for the last several months. With no fuel and no money to buy food, there aren't many places to go for hungry Sri Lankans, except for a local soup kitchen. A queue of hungry residents snakes around the corner of the building in Colombo, where the kitchen is located, eagerly waiting for a free vegetarian meal.
අනාගතය ගැන හිතන්නේ ඉතින් දරුවෝ ගැන තමයි ගොඩක් හිතන්නේ මාමියගේ ඉතින් දරුවන්ට යමක් අපි කරලා තියන්න ඕනේනේ ඒ නිසා තමයි මේ දේවල් කොහොම හරි දරුවෝ ගොඩ එන්න තමයි මම මොන හරි දෙයක් හම්බ කරලා ළමයින්ට ඒව දේවල් කරලා තමයි ආධාරයක් හරි ඉල්ලන්නේ මම නිකන් නෙමෙයි මගේ දරුවන්ට දීලා කරලා මම මැරිලා ගියත් කමන්නේ මම කුණුකේ දිරලායි නාමේ නොදිරායයි ඉතින් අම්මේ උඹට එන ගහපන් කියන්න මේ ලෝකෙට මට කියන්න බෑනේ මහත්තයා ඒ නිසා තමයි මම මේ දේකවල මේ ජීවිතේ ඉතින් අනාගතේ මගේ දරුවෝ තමයි ඉතින් අනාගතේ
Bethany Christian Life Center has set up soup kitchens, locally referred to as community kitchens, and has been serving some 1,500 people daily since June. An acute fuel shortage has not only forced cars off the road, people are now unable to cook even if they have food supplies, as cooking gas is scarce.
Hunger is common for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. If you are hungry, you are in need. So the community kitchen concept is open for anyone who is hungry to come and eat. The only thing that we say is there's no takeaways. You have to come and eat. Any amount of what you want to eat, you are free to eat. So as I said, right now the challenge for people is some they don't have food, some they have food but they are unable to cook. So the community kitchens are open. We give tokens for everyone who comes. So whoever comes first will get to eat.
Sri Lanka is facing the worst economic crisis since its independence from Britain in 1948. The community kitchens will continue to function until the end of August and will be reassessed if it is required to be continued based on the prevailing situation.
අපිට හිතා ගන්න බෑ මේ මෙච්චර කෙනෙක් කාවිලා ෆන්ඩ් නැතුව චුට්ටක් දෙන්න මෙහාට එනවා අඬාගෙන එනවා අනේ මැඩම් දෙන්න පොඩ්ඩක් හරි දෙන්න දම්කුඩ ටික හරි කමන්නේ නැහැ දෙන්න කියලා අපි කියනවා මේකේ දම්කුඩ ඉතුරු වෙන්නේ නැහැ දම්කුඩ නැහැ ඉතින් මේ අපේ පංගුව දැන් අපි පල්ලෙහාට යවලා තියෙන්නේ ආයි ඊළඟ දවසේ 12:00 වෙනකොට එන්න කියලා පටන් ගන්න ස්ටාර්ට් කරන්න 12:00 ඒ නිසා ඒ ලාවට එන්න කියලා ඉතින් හරි සතුටෙන් කරනවා දැන් ඒ ගන්න ප්‍රමාණය ටික ටික නම්බර දීලා එහෙම පිළිවෙලට ගන්නකොට ඒ තව 10 දෙනෙක් විතර ඉන්නවා එක දවසක් 38 දෙනෙක් හිටියා.
Since Sri Lanka is getting humanitarian aid from the world over, the World Bank said it has no plan to offer new financing to the island nation until an adequate microeconomic policy framework is in place in the country. The international financial institutions said deep structural reforms are needed. Reforms must focus on economic stabilization and also on addressing the root structural causes that has created the crisis to ensure that Sri Lanka's future recovery and development is resilient and inclusive. In addition, other ongoing projects continue to support basic services, the delivery of medicine and medical supplies, school meals and tuition waivers. Sri Lanka has experienced an escalating economic crisis and the government has defaulted on its foreign loans. The United Nations warned that 5.7 million people in the island nation require an immediate humanitarian assistance. Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in our segment called Asia Watch.
Thai farmers raised their water buffalo at a muddy annual race, marking the beginning of a new rice growing period at the start of the monsoon season in a tradition dates back to the 1800s to give thanks to their beasts of burden. Locals and tourists flocked to the races around the 200-meter long dirt track in Map Phai, sub-district of Chonburi province, some 80 kilometers southeast of the capital Bangkok. This year, over 60 buffaloes joined the race, in which organizers hope to prolong a lost tradition. The annual race, which sometimes also takes place after the end of the monsoon season, was paused during the coronavirus pandemic but made a return last year. Most Thai farmers no longer use water buffalo for farming, but many are still keen on keeping the animal and conserving the tradition of water buffalo racing.
Hyper Idohaku is an application game that explores Edo. It is the old name of Tokyo. While exploring the Edo town, players can learn about people's life by looking at the pictures. The pictures that appear in the game are the collection of Edo Tokyo Museum. Edo Tokyo Museum is a popular place for sightseeing in Tokyo. It has released its game application Hyper Edo Haku, which could run on smartphones. Opened around 29 years ago, some of the collections are now displayed at a temporary museum. Hyper Edo Haku stages around the area of Ryogoku Bridge, which was lively and bustling with many people in the town of Edo. Visitors enjoy going back to the previous era by means of this application. Japanese hospitality is becoming a treat for travelers and citizens all around the world.
Restaurants in Malaysia are grappling with sharp rises in essential commodities including flour and cooking oil over the past months as the Russia-Ukraine conflict has driven up prices of wheat imports among other goods. Malaysia has two main staples, namely roti canai, a fried Indian bread, and mee goreng, fried noodles, with both relying on imported wheat. Because of the rising cost of wheat, some restaurants have no choice but increase the prices of products. Currently, Malaysia's biggest source of wheat is Australia, and about 1/5 of its wheat supply comes from Ukraine. On a recent trip to Turkey, Malaysia's Prime Minister said his country was keen to buy more wheat and wheat products from Turkey as it seeks to diversify its suppliers.
Rinnai Australia recently announced a new renewable product technology which is designed to support Australia's clean energy mix future as Rinnai Global Innovation Manifesto, which seeks to achieve zero carbon emissions by 2050.
And Rinnai Australia is now a centre of excellence for Rinnai Japan in the Pacific region for R&D and product development, and particularly in renewable energy products and zero footprint products for emissions. Nearly 50% of the product that Rinnai now sell in Australia and other regions is manufactured here in Australian factories. The longer-term future for Rinnai, or for the country, is to inject also hydrogen, because Australia is going to become one of the world's largest producers of green hydrogen over the next 15 years. And this product will be manufactured by breaking down the water molecule using energy gained from wind and solar farms across the country. We must prepare ourselves for that future by building ourselves into other energy footprints that allow us to manufacture, design and develop new products which will create and deliver zero emissions into the future. We have also built and manufacture in Australia EHP water heaters for domestic applications, many commercial inverter air conditioning products, where we understand that as the future grid in Australia becomes zero emission grid, Rinnai Australia conducted a national launch of this 100% hydrogen water heater. At that function, we asked the Japan ambassador to Australia to please present and introduce this water heater technology in Australia to the media.
Rinnai Australia contributes to development of renewable energy utilization around the world.
Hundreds of supporters of populist Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr broke into Iraq's parliament as the country reached 290 days without a government. Infighting amongst Shiite and Kurdish groups in particular has prevented the formation of a government, hampering reforms needed as the country struggles to recover from decades of conflict. More than 9 months since an October election, lawmakers tasked with choosing a president and prime minister looked no closer to an agreement, bringing the country to a record 290 days without a head of state or cabinet. The last longest deadlock was in 2010 when, after 289 days, Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki got a second term. The outing government of Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi continues to run the country. The paralysis has left Iraq without a budget for 2022, holding up spending on much-needed infrastructure projects and economic reforms.
Moving on. Residents in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir took to the streets as they demanded accountability from the authorities who allegedly opened fire on civilians, leaving many injured and admitted to hospitals. They held peaceful demonstrations against the government for long and power cuts in the region.
Open violent confrontations, vandalism and increasing tensions between authorities and civilians. These are the latest pictures from Rawalakot region of illegally occupied POK that has plunged into an atmosphere of state's high-handedness being responded through anarchy. People in the illegally occupied region are out on the streets demanding accountability from the authorities who allegedly opened fire on civilians, leaving many injured and admitted to hospitals. They were holding peaceful demonstrations against the government for erratic and long power cuts in the region. And instead of resolving their issues, the administration resorted to violence to muzzle their voices. People have demanded a thorough inquiry into the issue and urged the Prime Minister of the region to involve directly so that people's fundamental rights that have been disregarded with impunity are restored.
पुलिस ने यहाँ पे रियासती दहशतगर्दी की है और यहाँ पे लोगों को स्ट्रेट फायर मारे हैं। डीएसपी तारिक ने यहाँ पे हम लोगों के ऊपर स्ट्रेट फायर किए हैं। हम इसकी भरपूर मजम्मत करते हैं और अवाम इलाका से गुजारिश करते हैं कि अगर ये बदमाशी आपके गांव, आपके मोहल्ले में चलेगी तो हम लोग कहाँ पे सर्वाइव करेंगे। अवामी हकूक़ के लिए बात करना अगर जुर्म है और ये पुलिस इसको किसने इख्तियार दिया है कि ये लोगों को स्ट्रेट फायर करते हैं।
The problem is not limited to one town or a few villages, but the entire illegally occupied area continues to reel under hours of darkness on everyday basis. Even after having a number of power stations and regular supply of river and rainwater, the authorities in the region have failed to provide proper electrical supply to the residents. The hydropower projects that were pursued in the name of providing power and welfare to the people of the region have turned out to be of no good to locals. The energy being produced out of these plants is being diverted to parts of Pakistan, especially the favoured state of Punjab. During the protest, demonstrators even warned the government that if it doesn't take immediate action, then people across the region will explore other options of resistance and that might involve a full-fledged rebellion too.
इंशाअल्लाह इस पुलिस को मज़म्मत का सामना होगा और जो इस डीएसपी ने यहाँ पे निहत्ते लोगों पे हम पूरा मन है निहत्ते लोग हैं स्टेट फायर किए हैं इंशाअल्लाह इसका जवाब भी इनको मिलेगा और हम ये नाम नहाद हुकूमत को वार्न करते हैं नाम नहाद हुकूमत का जो वज़ीर आज़म तनवीर इलियास है हम उसको वार्न करते हैं कि इस इंतज़ामिया को लगाम दे वरना इसका अंजाम भयानक होगा और यहाँ पे आवाम सिविल नाफरमानी पे आ जाएगी। उसके बाद ये पुलिस इस नाम नहाद पुलिस ये गुंडागर्द पुलिस हमारा कुछ नहीं कर सकती।
The local residents even complain about heavy electricity bills that they have to pay for low voltage electricity power that they receive for a few hours in a day. The problem of load shedding is rising due to prevailing indifference coupled with a corrupt administrative system. Over the years, Pakistan has only shot down an ecologically abundant and economically prospering region and has turned it into the most neglected and backward region of Southern Asia.
In Nepal, people burned effigies of mythical demon king Ghanta Karna to mark the annual Gati Mangal festival with great devotion and enthusiasm. Devotees belonging to the Newari community gathered to celebrate the festival during the Hindu month of Sawan. The history of its origins differs in different texts. The essence of victory of good over evil remains the same. Have a look. In the east corner of Nepal's Kathmandu Valley, Bhaktapur city observed a unique festival called Gati Mangal or Ghanta Karna Chaturdashi, where the effigies of a demon king named Ghanta Karna were burned by Newari people. The annual festival is held every year during the monsoon month of Sawan. While people have grown up with intriguing tales and their versions, there is one popular belief that Ghanta Karna would mete out atrocities on common people. He would kidnap children and women and would demand ransom. The demon got his name from the bells on his ears, that is Ghanta, meaning bell, and Karna means ears. The rings have faith in protecting people from unpleasant sounds and evil spirits. Residents say such a festival symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance.
हाम्रो नेवारी भाषाबाट के भनेदेखि नेवारीबाट गाठाम हो भनेर भन्छ हैन त्यो पहिला बाजा बराजु पनि कति वर्ष भयो होला कति हामी जस्तो कति गयो कति गयो त्यहाँदेखि पराक्रम चल्दै आएकोमा पनि अहिलेसम्म हामीले त्यो पराक्रम गर्नै पर्छ भने यो एउटा के भनेदेखि दैत्य भनेर भन्छ हैन त्योलाई के भनेको भने त्यसले सारे टोलमा दुःख दियो अनि टोलमा दुःख दिएको हुनाले त्यसलाई समाएर त्यसले जात्रा गरेर त्यसले पोल्नै पर्छ भनेर बनाएर पोल्ने चलन गरिराखे.
On the day of Gate Mangal festival, an effigy of Khanda Karna is erected using hay straws and other decorative items on a street to be burnt later, making the victory of good over evil. People clean their houses and prepare a traditional meal called Samai Bhaji, a food mixed of beaten rice, ginger, black soybeans, choila, potato, garlic. They stick a small patch of cow's dung with different plants in the doors to purify their house. This is one of the most important festivals of the Newari community, and it is believed that it brings good fortunes. This festival is also celebrated as a symbol of cleanliness, as the garbage inside and outside the house is cleaned and disposed of in a systematic manner.
अहिले घन्ना गर्न जलाउँछ हैन त्यो बच्चाहरुलाई चाहिँ त्यो धुवामा चाहिँ नि घुमाउँछ अहिले हेर्नुस् तपाईहरुले हेर्नुस् हैन त्यो घुमाएपछि हैन त्यो घुमाएपछि रुन चाहिँ हटाउँछ के यो हराउँछ के.
Not just this, even a person is appointed on this day as a symbolic offspring of the demon named Ghanta Karna and is asked to pay for his deeds. For centuries, people from all walks of life in the Newari community have upheld the tradition of this festival. It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We will be back next week at the same time. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on the behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.